Going live or went live? He says we are live on YouTube Live. Hello and welcome to Through a Therapist's Eyes. If you're finding us for the first time on this platform, we do YouTube Lives on Thursdays at about 6:15 to 6:30. I think we're like spot. Oh, we were. No, we're not anymore.
Would this be a bad time to say that I need to go to the bathroom?
Oh, wow. Why don't you go to the restroom
and you can introduce
we'll
everything.
Introduce everything. And would this be a bad time? That's awesome. Classic Victoria.
Well, I have a mic, so you and I can talk while we wait.
Awesome. Thank you, Neil. Wow. I don't even know what to say now. This is the show before the show, Neil. This is where we do a little bit of an intro on YouTube Live, and then we get the component that you'll hear on Apple, iPodcast, whatever. So we're going to be talking about how to get rid of a habit today, Neil.
Yes,
Neil is
Chris.
with us. How are you?
I'm good.
We're affectionately waiting on Victoria now.
The next show should be how to build a habit, right?
Oh, yes, indeed. We're not going to have John with us. Usually we have a panel of therapists. So John is in a mental health day, I think. So that is good for him. We'll fire up here in a minute. How's your week?
It's been good. I've been building new habits this week, so it's been good.
Okay. I'm sorry. I've been cracking up since you left. I just, and I must say and admit that's perfectly typically Victoria.
Yeah, that's and ask my clients that too. They know that too. Like, I forgot to go to the bathroom before this session. Do you mind if I go real quick?
That's awesome. All right.
I'm sorry. I'm
That's
trying to
fine.
do this whole drink more water thing.
Oh,
but
yeah,
then,
it's a waste
but then
of
the
time.
side effect is like that I gotta go to the bathroom all the
Drink
time.
water all day long,
I'm like-
and I'm like, what is the point? All right, you ready to go, Neil? Let's rock.
Sorry
and roll.
for.
You're fine. Just take a couple ribbing when you were gone. You have to watch the YouTube Live to catch that. I know I will.
Oh Lord.
Yeah, you ready? Hello, this is Through a Therapist's Eyes, and we are banging this out on, what is this, May the 15th is a Thursday. So
Yep.
welcome to Through a Therapist's Eyes. We have Mr. John Pope is normally a part of our panel, taking a mental health day. He is still with us next to Victoria
Yes.
and your bag.
And
Is
my
that on
McDonald's
camera?
bag. I put it off to the side so that it wouldn't be on camera. Is it on camera? Okay.
It is not on camera, says Neil.
But yeah, so it's
Good
just
stuff.
me and you today.
Miss Victoria Pendergrass, how are you this
I'm
week?
doing well. How are you? I feel like I haven't sat in here in like.
It's been
like
a while.
month.
It's been a minute. I was gonna say it's good to have the band back, but then we had John. So yeah,
I think
we
John
missed
is
you.
a great example that sometimes even therapists we need mental health days too.
Absolutely.
You know, and
You have
so,
to practice what you preach, man.
Yeah,
You really have to practice.
be
what
kind
you
to your mind.
So we're going to be talking about how to get rid of a habit today. Episode
Ooh.
312. The 3 questions that we want you to focus on is: what habit have you been trying to change, and why does it matter to you? 2, what triggers and emotions tend to lead you back into that habit? Well, we're definitely going to talk about today. And what small sustainable change could you make today to disrupt that pattern? Those are the 3 questions. So this is Through a Therapist's Eyes, where you get insights from a panel of therapists in your car or personal time at home, knowing it's not delivery of therapy services in any way. We would like to say that the way to contact us is contact@throughtherapisteyes.com. It's a great email. We interact with us. Check the YouTube Lives out. Look, we got new subscribers today. So
Yay!
we get to announce. Who do we get to announce? It's G.C. Wilcox.
Yay!
Is a part of
Snaps
the-
all around.
Through a Therapist Oz family, and Jovan Ramirez also
Yes, more snaps.
is a YouTube member. And it's kind of cool. I happen to notice it's public, so I'll give a shout out to Miss Ramirez. She is a PMHNP.BC. Do you know what that stands for? Without reading, without reading.
No, I mean, I can guess that the BC is like board certified.
Okay, keep going. Keep
and
going.
Then
What
probably
is MH? Come on, you got that one.
MH mental health.
You're right. And she would be a
NP is nurse
NP.
practitioner.
So she is a newly minted, I'm going to say, shout out Miss Ramirez, a newly minted psychiatric mental health nurse practitioner board certified. Not the short GK Wilcox. Welcome, both of you.
Yes.
All right.
Happy
What else did
that
I
you're
miss
here.
on my introduction? Hey, John wants 5 stars. He's not here to
Oh, yeah.
insist.
5 stars.
But your job really...
And if you want to give us like a good review on top of the 5 stars, that would even be better.
Really and truly, we
would love that.
We give you free content. We hope you get a little entertained and you get information that's
Yeah.
good. If you like what we do, your job really is to find subscribers for YouTube Lives. Tell people. People listen to you. They really do.
Make sure
Subscribe.
you follow us on TikTok. We are Through a Therapist Eyes.
We're a TikToker.
And then on social media, we're also Through a Therapist Eyes.
And we have posts out there.
Yeah,
and
so
give
you can
good
also, if you don't
content.
want to email us, you can direct message us
Drop a line
on
there.
either one of those things. We do the whole, if you follow us, we follow you back.
Yep.
I might be slightly behind on some things, but I'm catching up.
All right. She is our queen of social media.
Yep.
So if you're actually interacting, you're probably interacting with you on that. With YouTube Lives and all that, it's generally me.
Yes.
Yeah. Neil
But either
pops
way,
in.
they can reach out to us on email, social media, any type of.
But again, just to highlight, really, that's your part of this deal. People listen to you, your friends, your family, and if you have content with a specific show, it's a good thing to, text a link to somebody, make it active so that they'll click on it. That really helps us out. You're a big part of our growing. And of course, this is the human emotional experience, which we do endeavor to figure out maybe together.
Together?
That's
Is
the
that
line.
it?
So, shall we launch, Victoria? What do you know about behavioral psychology, behaviorism? Did you even study that a whole lot?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of what name goes with that. But
Well,
I can't.
That's
what
an interesting... I got it wrong, frankly.
Did you?
I did, and I had to add. Look,
it's been a hot minute since I've been in.
Aaron Beck is who I was quoting, but that's
Okay, yeah.
cognitive behavioral therapy.
Yeah.
It's not purely behavioral.
Yeah.
And you're going to hear a new name because it's not readily on the tip of my tongue. I mean, I've got, Gottman for EFT and
Right.
Sue Johnson for EFT. And who are the other staples? Of course, Aaron Beck. Everybody does
Yeah.
CBT.
And of
there's
course,
BF,
you have like Freud
BF
and
Skinner, Freudian,
Skinner,
Adler.
Gestalt.
Okay, here's a new one. John B. Watson. Did you remember that name?
John B. Watson. I do. The Watson sounds familiar.
Does it? That totally didn't even sound right to me.
But
He is
like, I don't know if I would have been able to match that with behavioral.
That's
psychology.
the pure behavioral component.
I mean, I'm sure we talked about it in school.
Around the
but-
turn of the century, early 1900s, 13 specifically, I think he kind of wrote his papers and got the field to really think about behavioralism. Why do we
Yeah.
care about that? The reason why we care about that is understanding what happens with your habits, understanding what happens with your behavior. That's what today is about, so that then we can understand how to attack it. And I like using the word attack. I'm not a very passive person. And I don't give a lot of passive suggestions, or my
Yeah.
therapy is not passive. It's very active.
Yeah.
Structured sometimes,
Very
but
direct.
active.
Yeah.
And so if you're going to change behavior patterns, then you need to understand what's going on with your system that you're in those patterns in
Yeah.
the first place. And that's where behaviorism comes in.
Well, and I think that's that's exactly why when I talk about things, and you probably do the same, is like and I know we've talked about it on the podcast before, but like when I talk about anxiety and things like that, like I go into like the nervous system and I talk about like the biological components of it, like in your body, because then I think it helps to understand, like make that connection.
I won't say who, but I literally was posed a question today on email. Therapist conversations are so weird, Neil.
Yeah.
I don't know how you cope with us, brother.
Yeah.
Oh, he's got a grin. Somebody asked me today how my parasympathetic nervous system was doing.
Look, that's
I appreciated the question. I really did.
And you understood
And
the
I
question.
understood the question.
Yeah, most people would be like, "My what?"
What does that even mean? Yeah, how's your parasympathetic nervous system doing, Chris?
But I do. I think it helps. Like we point those things out because it helps us make those connections to these things that we're experiencing. So I think that very similar mindset of like with the behavior stuff is important. Like to be able to understand like well, why do I do this said thing? Or, always, whatever, make these behavioral patterns.
Right.
And
Because the point needs to be made, Victoria, I think that brings to my mind so many of these things that we're talking about, habits, changing habitual patterns, cycles that you get into. Look, they happen automatically, usually. This isn't a thought process. We're going to talk about understanding the cycle as being a cue that you experience, and then you have a routine in response to the cue, and then you have a reward, and that reward is a relieving of symptoms or something of that nature. Your habits are almost like you're unaware. You're not cognizant. They're automatic. They're in your subconsciousness sometimes, really. And people wonder they don't have access to that assessment or even know that it's a cue and a trigger and an action.
right.
How do you change that?
Yeah.
Because it's just happening before you even think about it. Trichotillomania is an interesting thing, for example. Right?
Yeah.
There's pulling that happens, and
Yeah.
people get freaked out. Like, you're pulling your hair out. That's calming. Yes, that is a habitual pattern. It's soothing, believe it or not, for somebody with anxiety. It's an anxiety kind of reality. And so if you're not even thinking about it, you're just kind of playing with your hair like this. You can see on YouTube.
Yep.
And you just play, and it's almost kind of like, you're petting your hair, but then you have that little pulling feel, and you'll actually feel endorphins when you have pulling,
Yeah.
and you're not even realizing that you're literally pulling your hair out.
Yeah.
Trichotillomania. It's wild, right?
Yeah. It's also tough to spell.
It-
It's one of those hard ones to spell. But
is
yeah,
very
well, and I think that's the thing is what sometimes, like, you can't, in the moment, like, you can't help that is what's firing off endorphins in your body. But then we can address it.
Well, wait a minute. You can help it. You can't help it if you're not even aware. Because
Right.
it's a
I think
soothing
that's,
activity.
that's more what I mean. Like, if
Yeah.
you're not making that connection,
Right.
that the hair pulling is leading to a release of endorphins, and then we're not,
Or
that
even
part.
backing that up, understanding I am hungry and stressed out, I'm a little irritable, and I didn't even know that I was pulling.
Right. Yeah.
That's the way it works.
Yeah.
You have to back it up and understand, wait a minute, I am vulnerable now. I know I'm irritated because my kids are on my head, and they shouldn't be this much. Also, I realize I haven't eaten, and I need to realize that my cue tends to be this is when my anxiety attacks.
Yep.
So let me eat something instead.
Yeah, we do
Right.
those pause things, and I think there's actually, I'd have to look it up, or someone would have to remind, or maybe you know what I'm talking about. But there's like one of those crap, and what
Are you blanking?
Yeah, what is it when the letters that spell out something?
acronym.
An acronym.
Yes. Wow, you okay?
Yeah,
we need to start over.
An acronym. There's one of those where we stop and we and you go through like, what, am I hungry? Have I had water? Like, when we start like noticing that something's off, as like
Check your cues.
yeah, like as immediate. And then if it's not one of those things, then we might be like, okay, let's dive a little bit deeper. Or if we try all those things, right? If we drink the water, if we eat a snack, if we do the things and we're still feeling this way, then it's something else. But it's like I feel like someone told me about it one time, or I saw it somewhere. It was like an acronym they went through.
HALT is another one of those types of things for addictions treatment.
Yeah.
Look, you listening, talking to you, I want you to understand and think about these things that we have cues. This month has been a little bit of like, mental health, tidbits or skill sets, like how to do some things. We talked about finances, and we talked about the men's health kind of component. And if you look at our first question, what habit have you been trying to change? And why does it matter to you? That question, why does it matter to you? Think about those things that you would like to have different in your life. And you've got to have those connections made. So that second part is really important, and that's what we're talking about now. You have a habit. You want to change it. Well, why does it matter to you in the first place? That's connecting all of the dots, Victoria, right? That's connecting the cues, the triggers, the what it does for you. Mm-hmm. And then if it's a behavior that you're not happy with, you want to change the habit, now you find alternatives and replacements and that sort of thing. We'll talk about all that. But those connections are really I don't know how you do this without making those connections.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really.
Really?
It's hard for my brain to wrap around how you could.
I mean, I
You
carry.
know?
I don't know about you, but I think you're picking up on a lot of similarities, maybe, in that I really carry an insight model. Like I've honestly wanted to kind of create a whole therapy modality in that regard, and I know that's ambitious and crazy, but
Yeah.
maybe not, right? Because an insight-oriented model is a component of a lot of the paradigms we go through
Right.
and we use. Developing insight, oftentimes for most, well, I wouldn't say most, but for a lot of therapy models, that's like, right in the initial stages.
Yeah.
Very important first
Well,
step.
yeah, it's that whole you can't do anything about it if you don't know it's a problem or if you don't know it exists
It is.
or,
It absolutely is.
like,
So let's talk a little bit about the cycle.
Yeah.
Cycle of cues. Other times a lot of people use the word trigger.
yes.
And then you have routines in response. So a cue or a trigger in response, you have your routine, and then you get your reward. This is why we have bad habits, because it seems to reward you. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, until you wake up the next day like hungover or something, and then you're like, oh my
Okay.
God, never drink it again.
Right.
or whatever.
Everyone's had that I'll never drink again hangover.
Right.
Those are bad days.
And then what do you do the next weekend?
You get back in
yeah.
saddle. The hair of the dog is something I don't understand. But think about those primary responses. A lot of your bad habits originate or live in the space where you have your negative coping skills.
Yeah.
The things we all do. We buy things we can't afford when we're trying to cope. We'll drink alcohol to try to negate the stress. We will get into fights, aggression, and fighting.
Overeat.
We'll eat things, eating your feelings, they say. You'll overeat or undereat.
Or undereat, yeah.
These are all negative coping skills. But I wonder, I'd be curious to see, like, what percentage of bad habits per se are associated with that realm of I'm using coping mechanisms.
Like I'm using it to
albeit
cope.
negative. Yeah. That's got to be a high percentage.
I would say over 50, definitely.
Definitely over 50.
Yeah, I would say 75, 80.
Now we're playing around.
Yeah.
Maybe 60 to 80,
Yeah, 60 to 80. We'll give it that range.
Yeah.
I mean, just think about, because we even talk about this with our clients, right? Like, we all do coping skills. It's just determining whether or not it's a healthy coping skill or an unhealthy coping skill. Like, I might smoke a pack and a half of cigarettes a day to help me feel calm, but is that necessarily the best thing for me to be doing? Probably not.
It's a habit somebody's
Right.
trying to break. Why is that important to you? Understand, because it helps you to cope.
Right.
If you're going to take your primary coping tool away, what are you going to do?
Freak out. Or try
Gotta
to
have
find
an answer.
something. Yeah, try to find something out. Honestly, you'd probably find something that's equally as bad for you to replace it.
Well, hopefully we switch
Well, you
to
try not
something
to, but
like
usually-
exercise or whatever. And you know what? That's a good point, Victoria, because you can go back and forth, replace a bad habit with another bad habit. Oh boy.
Yeah.
But point I'm trying to make now is we want a replacement. You
Yeah.
can't just take something away and not replace it with something that's effective.
Well, yeah.
It doesn't work. And that's what a lot of times people are doing with like smoking. How many times do you
They just quit cold turkey and then they don't do anything to replace what they were doing.
and you end up smoking again?
Yeah, and then you end up like
Every smoker has quit smoking like, 1,537 times.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I do have an article. We've done better with the show notes, man. Check out the website and the show notes. There's a lot of stuff there for you. But we're not going to talk a whole lot about Aaron Beck and this Watson guy, right?
Yeah.
They are theoretical stuff. If John were here, I might go down that road a little bit because he loves that kind of thing. I'd be curious what he
Yeah.
would say. I really want to know if he knows who Watson is.
I feel like
I'm
Watson
sure he
sounds
does.
familiar. I mean,
That's crazy. I got blanks, man. I hate to admit
Yeah.
that on an international podcast, but I got
what
blanks.
was the first name?
John B. Watson.
John B. Watson.
Yeah, I'm embarrassed to admit it, but I'm gonna admit it.
Yeah, I don't know. I would have to look through my books or whatever, or notes or whatever, to see if that
So I always thought B.F. Skinner was much more the behavioral person.
That's what.
Skinner did all this stuff.
Yeah. Well, because Skinner did Pavlov
No, that was earlier than B.F. Skinner. Skinner uses kids to figure out behavioral
that's right.
mechanisms and stuff, right?
Wait, then who did Pavlov's dog?
Pavlov, probably. I don't know.
Well,
Was
duh,
that
Victoria. Yeah.
Pavlov, maybe.
Um,
That's curious, though. That is wrapped up in some stuff. But
yeah.
that's why we need John.
Okay.
I'm actually going to read from this article that I thought was a cool article, and it goes right into this idea of understanding that your bad habit is a reward. So it's a cool article. Understand the dopamine reward system, that we work to defeat the typical self-destructive coping mechanisms that we just talked about. Many habits, including smoking or excess sugar consumption, involve the brain's dopamine or reward system. So dopamine is a feel-good chemical that transmits signals between neurons in the brain. We've talked about that before. I guess I'm ruining the quote from the article, aren't I, with my interludes, but nevertheless.
Yeah, whatever.
The first time you engage in a new, rewarding behavior, you get a euphoric feeling from doing it. Yes, hair pulling. That's like euphoric.
Yeah.
As a result of the dopamine release, notes Paul Dreck. This leads to changes in both the connections between the neurons and the brain systems responsible for actions and can largely account for why we start to form bad habits in the first place. That is really important information.
Okay.
Hello, Carolyn, by the way, on YouTube. Appreciate the compliment. Victoria, a great group of therapists. Yes, she highly recommends this.
Okay, so actually I do remember Watson.
Oh, you've looked it up.
I chat GPT'd it.
Gotcha.
My favorite thing. And he did the little Albert experiment. The kid that was afraid of the white rat.
Oh, he's the right rat guy.
Yeah.
Okay.
And pairing that sight of the rat with like the loud noise. And so then he's classical conditioning.
Okay.
So he actually influenced people like B.F. Skinner because he came before B.F. Skinner.
Gotcha.
So yeah, okay. So we did learn about this, and
I guess I was paying attention to the new guy and forgot the old guy.
Yeah.
Sorry, Mr. Watson, but you are old. You did do your papers in.
But
13.
yeah, that's the little Albert experiment is a very famous experiment in psychology and counseling in
and that
general.
suits and pairs well with all of the Pavlovs and some of the Freudian stuff and a lot of the earlier.
So which is why probably people like me and others get it confused.
Yeah. Got you. So this dopamine system, though, let's stay on track with that. That's a very powerful, recognizable function that your body literally does to help you. The trouble is we want to trigger those dopamine dumps in appropriate ways. We don't want to trigger them with destructive behaviors, which is unfortunately what people usually fall into. With 60-80% of our time, just our anecdotal experience, by the way, not a science fact there.
Yeah.
But, with negative coping skills. Dopamine's fuming.
Well, yeah, that's why you keep doing it.
I mean, Neil, how much do we love Fight Night, right? He nods his head. I love a good MMA fight. I actually got 2 that I need to watch that are old that I can watch for free on ESPN, by the way.
A hockey game for the chance of a fight happening?
I definitely see hockey players get their team motivated by getting into a fight. People have that role. That's dopamine.
Yeah.
It happens in sports. It happens at home. It happens also when you're running.
Yeah, go Canes.
Go Canes. Running. Follow the bouncing ball.
Yeah.
Does that not release dopamine? Exercising.
For
does
most
that
people?
not release dopamine?
Yeah.
Sex. Does that not release dopamine?
What?
Healthy food. Cooking a wonderful meal.
Yeah, reading a good book.
Having a time with your son. Pitching baseball.
I was going to say playing with your kids.
Right? These
For
are
me,
all...
it used to be doing puzzles. Gosh.
Oh, you love puzzles.
Yeah.
You get juiced up for a good puzzle, don't you? I saw you through a therapist-sized puzzle, by the way.
Look.
Which I need to get figured out how to
Yeah, we
make
need
it
to
into a
change
thing.
the manufacturer for that or something.
The what?
The manufacturer for it.
Oh, yeah, we have issues there.
Anyways, but yeah, like any of those things. And obviously most of those things that we listed are healthy and appropriate for most situations.
So honestly, you listening can maybe receive some good news with this mental health tip thing, right? You need to lose your bad habit, but at the same time, you can replace it with something that's equally as effective that releases dopamine. That's what's going on in your body, particularly when you're stressed out. That's good news.
Yeah.
You're not losing something.
Well, it's not
gaining.
a lost cause.
Yeah.
It's not like, oh my gosh, I have to give this up and then now I'm just going to have this void. of like whatever that it used to fill. No, you can replace like you can replace it.
But there's a big but here.
Yeah.
And I didn't plan this on the show notes, but this is genuine in the moment. When you're losing something, what follows a loss? Now, you know that. We grieve,
Yeah.
right? So a lot of times, and one of the most effective things that I talk about with people when we're talking about the big one, which is smoking cessation, a lot of people want to wrap therapy around that a little bit. I kick into my addiction knowledge and my addiction therapist brain, and we talk about it just like we do with alcohol.
Right.
Do you know what one of the most important factors in chronic relapsing? That is somebody who has not grieved the loss
I was
of
gonna
their
say, so,
relationship with alcohol.
Yeah.
And the same thing is with chocolate, sugars, carbs, sex sometimes.
As I say, look, are you like reading my mind? Because I was going to say the inappropriate use of sex.
Yeah.
I was just going to say it
promiscuity.
differently. Yeah.
Right?
Spending, inappropriate spending, money you don't have, the list goes on.
There is grieving when
Yeah.
you give up those behaviors. And that's a big part of successfully changing bad habits. I need to highlight that.
Yeah, and I think that also goes back to being able to understand how to properly grieve and like
does.
what that looks like.
Yeah.
And, and I mean, we have that handout that we like to give out
Right.
about grief.
Yeah.
Like our people that you got from somewhere.
There was a
And
conference, yeah.
yeah, and so like,
I don't have time for the whole story,
Right,
but we've
yeah.
talked about it on grief shows on the show before.
right. And so I think that is also a component because yes, I might want to grieve, but then you're sitting there and you're thinking, well, like, how in the heck do I do that? And then that is obviously something you can like talk to your therapist about. But like, I think that also stumps people, or at least that
it's
would be my
very confusing
like,
for people.
Yeah. Like, okay.
No, wait. I don't think it even stumps people. I think what happens is they literally do not realize that I am experiencing the loss of the
Right.
relationship with my cigarettes. There's a whole relationship there, and people don't grieve it because I literally had a conversation about grief today with a client, and they were, "You okay?"
Yeah. Just keep talking.
Okay. The YouTube lives are like, "What is she doing?" There was a loss of moving out of a town and being here,
Right.
supporting his wife, who is a primary bread earner, and didn't really realize that the grief and loss of moving and then his business had to sort of restart. There's a lot of grieving in that.
Yeah.
He didn't even realize it. He was like, "What? No one died." That's
And
when
what I
we
was gonna-
grieve.
yeah.
Right? I am in your head today. What's the deal?
I don't know.
We're in
It's
sync.
weird.
We're in sync.
But
ahead.
yeah, I mean, that's like, and I feel like a broken record sometimes saying this to people over and over again, but it is like grief is not just when someone dies or
So
when
much
we
more.
like, yeah, I mean, you like right now I have a client who is going through a separation, soon to be going through a divorce, and we are grieving the loss of her marriage. And that is actually one thing we talked about today when I saw her. Like
That's a big part.
something doesn't have to die for us to grieve.
And
I
some of
mean,
the other examples are better,
Yeah.
like grieving the loss of your location where you live, or grieving
The loss of a friendship.
the loss of your
Job.
independence when you get married. You're
Yeah.
you're losing your being single, but you're talking about like an end of a relationship. People can identify that is like a death. People will say that.
Yeah.
When you're going through a divorce, that's like a death.
But even
But is leaving town like a death? Is
I mean, yeah.
graduating grad school
if
a
you
death?
if you have lived in the same town your entire life, hey, hence me, until I went to college.
Yeah.
So I went to college at 17. So for 17 years, we moved houses, but we stayed in the same town and it's weird.
Yeah, you did college at 17? Like, hold
Yes.
on. What the heck?
But look,
You were a youngster.
I turned 18 like 2 weeks later. Okay. It wasn't like I was the whole year. But anyways,
Fair.
like, yeah, I mean, if you have significant memories, you have significant time spent invested into this like location that you've lived in. Yeah. Moving, even if it is 45 minutes down the road or in another county, like, I get what you're saying that like most people who are not like cognitively mental health aware of things like
Right.
grief, don't really acknowledge that those types of things, those types of, uprooting of things.
And then you find yourself doing these things, these
Right.
habits.
Yeah.
Because you want to feel better.
But that's because you're not then grieving the loss of
Directly.
the whatever it is, fill in the blank.
And onset behaviors.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's move a little bit to understanding the dopamine, the cues, and the rewards. So a big factor in changing the habits that you want to change is understanding the reason that you want to change them in the first place. That is a focus point. And that comes from Through a Therapist Eyes, where you're understanding your emotions and becoming your best as best self. It's one of the big 4 of my book. Focus points. If you focus on the reason why you're changing the bad habit in the first place and make that a regular and routine focus point, that habit becomes very unattractive because there are very real reasons why you're trying to change it. Now, I happen to believe this is one of the biggest relapse prevention tools, to use a buzzwords in
It's
addiction.
the focus point.
If you understand what drinking has done to you, even if you're an alcoholic,
Right.
one of the biggest things you can do for a relapse trigger is to focus on an event that's very specific, that's very painful, that creates and triggers shame. And you raise that up and you highlight that. I will have people make poems or write songs, do a picture, or some sort of like a ticket even.
Yeah.
Somebody used a DUI ticket one time and they've carried it around in their pocket.
Oh, I know people that, people
Right?
will do that a lot. Yeah.
Because you bring that out every time you want to drink, and it reminds you're focusing on, this is the reason why this needs to go away.
Yeah.
And there's some very powerful, visceral experiences that people have had that are horrible to think about. I don't want like gluttony for pain or masochism.
Right.
But if you focus on that as the reason why you're changing and you have a craving to drink, what do you think happens to that craving?
Yeah. I mean, I once had someone I heard someone say that, I can't remember who it was in relation to them. I think it was like their father or something. Took a picture, was trying to quit smoking, so printed off a picture of his family and like taped it to his cigarette box.
100%.
So
Love
that
it.
like every time he would get it out to get a cigarette out, he would remember like, okay.
That's
like,
impressive. Was that a
I
therapy
can't-
activity you created?
No, this
He
was,
just
I
did
was in
it.
it was a high school
Oh, wow.
classmate of mine.
Oh, okay.
It was part of this thing called Challenge Day. It's a whole, if you know what it is, you know what it is. But then they shared that. And I was like, wow, like that is,
Victoria's like, I'm going to use that in therapy.
yeah, I don't know I'm going to be a therapist at this point, but I will use this at some point in the future. But yes, I mean, sometimes we have to, and some people are like, but I don't like, I don't want to remember that. I don't want to do that. And I'm
Okay.
like, I get that. But also like nights and things like that are going to continue to happen if you don't remind yourself why you need to change. So if it's a DUI, you're probably going to continue to get DUIs if you don't put an end to this coping skill that you're doing unhealthily and replace it with something that is more appropriate.
Can I give you another of the big 4 from Through a Therapist's Eyes, re-understanding
for
your
it.
emotions and becoming your best self?
Go for it.
Okay? Because it follows up, seriously. Science-backed strengths to break habits. Okay? Increased awareness is kind of what we're talking about. Notice when and where the habit occurs. Well, one of the big 4 from the book that I'm proud of is stop and reflect on emotions.
Yeah.
If you don't stop and reflect on what's going on with your emotions, you will not have the cue, you will not understand the trigger, and you will not even be aware that you're in a nasty loop that gives you a dopamine drop. So it's really important. That's why several of the chapters funneled into like, look, people don't really sit and stop. We're so fast-paced. We're so busy. We talk about mindfulness, but who's mindful and really isolated in on just this moment?
Who has time in the day for that, Chris?
Right? I mean, we need to make
Yeah.
time,
That
obviously.
Yeah. And I always tell people, and I don't know if this kind of goes, I think it kind of goes hand in hand with it, but, and you can tell me if it doesn't, but like, that's why some people tell me all the time, I have clients that are like, I don't want to have to schedule things. I don't want to have to put things in my calendar.
Yeah,
I
that's
don't
me.
want to have to, do this. And I'm like, yeah, but sometimes if that's the only way that you're going to do it,
Schedule
then
it.
I mean, I literally told you that I was going to use my Finch app to help me like remember to do things.
And I literally told you to tell nobody that you do that.
Yeah, well, now I'm putting it on something that will live on the internet forever. But sometimes we need, like, there's nothing wrong.
Now you have to say what the Finch app is.
The
You have
Finch
to
app
go.
is a self-care app / a goals app that you can use by taking care of a bird. It's for those that remember
It's
the
cute.
for those that remember the Tamagotchi. It's kind of like that, but
Tamagotchi.
yeah, he does. Oh gosh.
I thought you were going for your mic, Neil. He's like, I got to chime in on that one,
a
man.
Tamagotchi was this little pet that you had to take care of on like this little device thing, and it was a whole thing.
When I was
Anyways,
in school, you
but
had
yeah,
an egg
like,
that you had to take care of like a baby. Does that count?
But there was not really. But there's nothing wrong with like my whole point in this, Chris, is that there's nothing wrong if you need to put time in your day that says like stop and reflect. Do that.
I love that.
Like if you
I
need
love
to
that.
like add in your schedule or put in your reminders or put in your Finch app or whatever, like actually that would be a great Finch app goal for every day is stop and take 1 minute, 5 minutes to stop and reflect on something
Did you do
today.
a 5-minute reflection?
Like, and there's nothing wrong with that. Because I mean, I tell my clients all the time and everyone I know, if I don't write it down, that crap ain't getting done.
Well, you know what?
Because I'm not going to remember.
Victoria and Neil, go for your mic because I want to pull you in actually, and I hope I'm not outing you, but I'm pretty confident because I know you well that you will care. But you have talked about recently, what you're doing in the mornings and stuff, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
What is it okay to talk about that?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, I figured it would be. So you're doing some different morning routines, and I'm telling you, that is hugely a part of setting up your day. With some of the things that you're trying to improve on. What can you talk about?
I mean, and the thing is, it's not even a hard goal. It's not like I'm trying to do, a million things or change a million things. It's just I'm trying to get my focus to be before I do anything else. I get up. I've been trying to be more purposeful about praying. I get purposeful about reading the Bible, and then we have a book study that I do, so I'll read those. So the first 20, 30 minutes of my day is I'm trying to get that as my first step. And then I get on my phone, check my email, stuff like that. Because it used to be the old habit was you get up, grab your phone. Do I have Slack messages? Do I have Discord messages? Are my, what's up with my apps? What's going on? I always do that. That's used to be my go-to. Get on my computer, start looking at stuff, right? But now I'm like, okay, let's be purposeful. And for the first 30, 40 minutes of my morning, let's do something that get me in a right state of mind. Now, I'm still really tired, so I do catch myself nodding off while I'm trying to read a little bit after the prayer.
Okay, fair enough.
But it's that struggle, and there's an intentionality to it. So for me, it's one small step. It's really forcing intentionality because in my life and what I do, I go through the motions too easy. So it's a two purpose for me. But yeah, it's hard. And I've so far this week, 4 for 4. I've been great.
Good job, man.
Well, yeah, and I mean, I think the downsides are what hold people like, oh yeah, I can do that, but then now I'm gonna have to wake up 40 minutes earlier than I normally do because I just don't have time in my day or blah 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 blah. But sometimes what studies show that people who work out and get a good start to their morning are actually more successful and are more productive
It's
and
science.
things like that.
It really is science at
I
this
think
point.
that sometimes it is about, okay, this is what I want to do, right? Say I want to quit smoking. Well, that means that I'm going to also have to make some other drastic decisions in my life.
Maybe not drastic.
Or maybe not, but there are going to have to be some other changes, and there might be some negative symptoms that I experience in this process. Am I headed down there?
Yeah, I think you're being realistic.
I mean, I tried to. I mean,
but I think what I want to hedge against a little bit is if you're really focusing on the downsides per se.
Well, I think that's what people.
Well, wait a minute. But when you're really focusing on the downsides per se, what you're going to be able to pay attention to are the habits you want to change. Right?
Yeah. Okay.
That's where we want to put the focus on. And I'm not
Gotcha.
trying to blow smoke and say,
No.
yeah, if you get exercise and you got to wake up early, I guess there are some downsides to that newness. But is it really down because it has such a great effect?
Right.
That's
I think that's kind of what I was trying to say.
It's like a misconnection that we try to make
Yeah.
to fool ourselves. It's actually our system's natural desire to create and maintain homeostasis, is a fancy word saying it. You want balance. We don't want things to be different. We want things to remain the same. We want to remain comfortable, but that literally supports your bad habit. So I don't want people thinking about dramatic changes, drastic differences, the downside of what I'm trying to do, because that's your system's natural progression that keeps you in the bad habit in the first place. And I think that's pretty important. I know that's not what you were saying, but it can come off.
Yeah.
It's tricky. Is that?
Yeah. No. Yeah.
That make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Moving on.
So replacing the routine we talked about, that's a big part of what we're trying to do. You've heard Neil's replacing checking Slack, whatever that even is.
Yeah.
I know kind of what it is. I never used it, but his apps, his activity, the emails, and going right into work.
Yeah.
It is a bad habit that drains you.
Or staring at a screen first thing in the morning.
So replacing things that way is really, and Neil's going to experience that. I know he already has. So adding practice relaxation. This is where, you want to reinforce your behavior. I think that's what I was just talking about with.
Well, and that's my
focus
wheelhouse with mindfulness is,
So,
giving
relaxation.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
because we know that the more you practice things, the more that it becomes like routine, and it becomes more like you can do it. What am I trying to say? What am I like? What, I can't. Think
Did you
words.
just drift off? What happened?
Yeah, like wait. What am I trying to say?
Mindfulness is your
Yeah,
sweet
like
spot.
it becomes a habit.
Which
is what we're talking about. So I was trying not to use the word habit, but I couldn't think of another word. So it becomes a habit. It becomes natural. That's right.
Okay.
Like if I do this thing where I get up in the morning and the first 5 minutes I spend doing a deep breathing exercise, or throughout the day I make sure to pause and do a deep breathing exercise, then it almost becomes like, well, this is just something I do every day at 12, or this is just something I do every day when I wake up, or before
So you're
I go to
developing
bed.
new routines.
Yes, and then it flows a lot easier than if, and it takes, you have to be consistent about it. And I think that that's what, like, in the form of like relaxing, I just think nowadays most people have a struggle.
Yeah, so let's back up a little bit and stay here a
Okay.
little bit, because I think I'm tracking what you're saying, but I
Okay.
think it might have some clarity needed with the reason and what we're really trying to do with mindfulness in the first place.
Right.
The relaxation is a part of mindfulness, but the part of mindfulness I want to kind of, cue in on and focus clearer on is, what does mindfulness itself do for changing habits?
So, at least the way I see it, one, we were talking about like the nervous system earlier.
Right.
So, mindfulness is going to give your nervous system time to calm down, time to relax, which I know that's where you're repeating the word, but it's because when your nervous system is more calmed down, you're able to see things clearer.
There you
and
go.
you're able to. So when we're stressed out, we're more likely to go to that unhealthy coping skill.
Again, not even know it.
Right. But if we can utilize some relaxation, some mindfulness, then we're able to consciously make a clearer decision, and we're more likely to choose this healthier option, like reading, going for a walk, asking for help, whatever it is. And so it's basically just doing that deep breath, taking the time to be like, okay, what is happening? Like, let me calm my mind down so that I can make a more rational decision, and so that I'm not automatically going for that unhealthy, picking up the pack of cigarettes or picking up the alcohol or doing whatever it is.
I just feel like, people, we live in a bubble, Victoria.
As therapists.
We do. And we're doing this all day long. And so I think, honestly, you're probably starting to forget. I long ago forgot. Like, people don't do this naturally a lot.
Yeah, no.
I mean, they really don't. Like, who spends as much time as therapists do thinking about the moment, how you're feeling? What is your emotion? What are your patterns? Why did I just do this? Asking yourself a connection to the cue.
Right.
I mean, you have a mommy issue from freaking 1979, and it plays into this behavior that you never really made a connection with. Why?
Right.
Because you're not slowing down, creating purposeful awareness through these practices that give you a state of mind that you could become aware.
Well, yeah, I mean, I end all of my sessions with a deep breath as long as the client wants to, you know? So I'm literally practicing mindfulness.
Yeah.
Basically every
teaching
hour.
it.
Yeah,
You're
and
teaching
teaching
it.
it. So, but I also take a deep breath
Okay.
with my clients. Like when I do, I'm not just going to tell you to take a deep breath and me not take one. Well, I need one too. So, like, yeah, I do think we definitely, and as someone like me who does a lot with mindfulness, especially in my therapy sessions, like, I think, yes, I'm a little like sheltered in that, like I'm in it a lot every day, all day, every day. So yeah, I think I kind of do forget that most people, like, you know, someone might look at me like, Victoria, that sounds great, but when do you want me to do that in my day? Because I don't have time. And so then we kind of have to go through the routine of their
Cop
day.
out.
Yeah, we have to, I'm like, okay, well, we can work with this.
Yeah.
And sometimes it is like, it means I might have to stay up 5 minutes later than I normally do so that I can take 5 minutes to like do a mindfulness exercise or calm my body down before bed or allow myself to, you know, stop and reflect on something from the day or whatever. But it can be done. I mean, and so I think when that becomes more practiced, then again, it goes back to then we're able to like pick those healthier coping skills and we're able to replace those unhealthy ones with something that is a little bit more effective in that healthy way.
Ready for another heavy hitter?
Sure.
Check this out. So if you're doing these things and you're being mindful and you're paying attention to how you feel and what the cues are, what the triggers are, becoming aware of the reward system, especially physically with dopamine and adrenaline and this type of a thing, what are you doing to yourself when you are thinking about the bad habit? Key 2 words: judgmental or curiousness. Right?
I have to pick.
Well, you don't have to pick.
Or
Which one do we want?
I mean,
You know? The guilt that we place on ourselves, the shame that we throw at ourselves
yeah.
is so thick. Like the judgmental, shameful, I am bad. I don't want
Yeah,
people to know that
exactly.
I did this. Pornography.
Right.
People struggle with that. And it's full of shame. It's full of guilt. It's full of doubt. It's full of fear. And many of the cues that you have, many of the times that you have these bad habits that you want to change in the first place, you're feeling worse and worse about them and isolating yourself in
Yeah.
them. What do you think's going to happen to this chronic habitual thing in that regard? Whereas if you just pay attention and you
Right.
use curiosity, that
Yeah.
is a primary skill. Get curious. I want that to be like on a T-shirt, Neil.
Yeah.
Get curious. On the Through a Therapist size apparel to come. I mean it. Right? Like when you become curious,
Yeah.
you will connect dots. You will explore what's happening for you. You will become aware of the system that's in place and
Right.
the rewards. And then when you're curious, you can get curious about, well, what could I do differently?
Right.
What would be even maybe more effective to get away from the drawbacks? This is more effective, more sustaining. Let's take
Right.
energy.
Well, go ahead.
Let's take energy.
Okay.
I did a no caffeine day today, and I'm tired. It made me mad because I'm like, I know if I had a cup of coffee, I would feel better.
And I'm drinking this Coke right in front
Well,
of
that's
you.
fine. I'm good. But I've been tired because I've gotten in a little bit too much habit. Like I try to really do
Right.
the half calves, which we don't have anymore in
I
the
know.
office.
I need to go get this.
We don't have any decaf either, dang it. So I'm,
We
I
have
need.
decaf green tea.
Oh, do we?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, maybe I'll hit some teas tomorrow because we don't have coffee. Anyway, the point is, do I need that reward, or can I get curious about it? Wait a minute. Here's an interesting thing with curiosity. What about B12? And I'm actually literally realizing in my supplemental routine, I haven't been taking B12 this week. I have not. Wouldn't it be curious how I would have felt today if I would have had those days this week of
Yeah.
B12,
Yeah.
right? So we don't need to tear ourselves up. We don't need to tear ourselves down. That makes you feel even worse. And I'm not trying an easier, softer way. And supporting rationalizations or minimizations or anything like that. What is when you want to change something, there's a reason why you want to change it. Can you stop crushing yourself for it? Like, be kind to yourself, right?
Well, and I think that, so one of the things that, and I actually talked about it today with someone, but that's why, and we do, it's a strategy that most therapists use in therapy, is we don't ask why.
Oh yeah, usually a bad question.
Yeah. And because there's a lot of blame and there's a lot of pressure that comes with that, like, you did something wrong. Why would you do that, Chris? Like, why did you do that? You know, and it makes you like, gosh, and a lot of people shut down after that and blah, blah, blah. And so, like, I think that we do that to ourselves too. Like, not only do we do that to other people, right? Or I might, accidentally do that with my 3-year-old. Why did you do that?
Yeah, shame others.
Yeah. And so we do that with ourselves. Geez, Victoria, why'd you do that? That was stupid. Or like, that was idiotic. Like, you're smarter than that, or, or whatever. And so, yeah, like, we got to give ourselves grace.
Grace is a cool word.
I mean,
it's really wise people, healthy people, caring people, compassionate people. Healthy people have healthy doses of grace.
Yeah.
And I'm going to write that as a quote down. Healthy people have healthy doses of grace. Can you write that down, Neil? For real. I'm going to add that to the list of apparel quotes on Through a Therapist's Eyes t-shirt apparel. Because healthy doses of grace just give you a whole lot of compassion and passion for the change.
At my old job, the one that I worked before, the one that you stole me from.
Yeah, I did.
But we had to
I love that you said that way.
We had to do, an annual review of ourselves, right?
Oh gosh, everyone has to do
performance
reviews.
Yeah,
how many people have
reviews
that?
and things. Well, I did this my first year there, and every year after, because they would always ask us to list goals that we had for the upcoming year, and one of my goals every year was always to give myself grace.
Oh wow, love
that. And every supervisor I ever had that read that was like, I love that goal. Like, that's such a great goal to have, and especially in a world where everybody seems to only care about productivity. How many people are you seeing a day? How many phone calls are you making a day? Blah, 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 blah. And then they make you feel bad if you don't meet the, 30 people or whatever a day or a week or, and so then you're like, well, no, well, well, this, and this happened this week. Or logistically, like when I was doing school-based therapy, they would have EOGs. Like I literally logistically could not see a lot of kids during testing week because they were testing. Like, it significantly impacted my productivity. So I got to give myself some grace. Like, there are some things that are outside of my control.
I think this is a big thing that people are struggling with a lot now, to throw social media under the bus yet again. The comparisons, the shameful doubts that get created. I'm not as good as that. I'm not as pretty as that. I'm not working out as much as that. I'm not doing as good like Neil's doing in the morning, with his routines. It's just we crush ourselves constantly nowadays.
We're typically our biggest critics.
Isn't that horrible? I mean, no wonder we need these bad habits. They pick us out of our doldrum and give us some adrenaline or dopamine or feel good chemicals. Endorphins, baby. Oxytocin, hormones. We flood our system with this stuff that just is fleeting. It's not sustaining.
Yeah.
Boy, it just occurs to me how much people are really in that space. Can I say this quote? Mindfulness practices can reduce the automaticity of bad habits. That's my contribution to the show notes.
Yeah?
Right?
You came up with that yourself?
I did, all by myself.
I'm so proud.
Because it does.
Yeah.
The automaticity, this automatic stuff, gets broken up when you stay in the moment.
Again, because connecting it back to the science stuff is it calms down. It allows your nervous system time to breathe so that you can think more logically with that smart brain of yours.
Yeah. It's huge.
Yeah.
It's really, it's very powerful. So let's move. I wanted to highlight, I mentioned AA a little bit here already, and I'm curious. I thought we might have a little competition, John, me and you. We've done it before, though. I'm curious how many of them that you remember, to be honest with you, Victoria. The AA mottos. Remember we talked about the language of substance abuse? And we were talking about all those
Yeah,
mottos.
I remember because I looked it up on ChatGPT to see if y'all forgot any.
You know, all the mottos and phrases are designed to really absolutely engage in reinforcement on new behavior.
It works if you work it.
That's one of them. One day at a time.
Yeah.
You know, keep it simple.
That's about all I got.
Stick with the winners is a phrase
Okay.
to stick with the people that are
Yeah.
good models, that are sober people.
Yeah.
That's all you got.
Look.
It's okay. It's
Look,
okay.
I got this for my gym is you showed up, now show up.
Yep. You showed up, now show up. I love that one. These are, look, we create mantras for a reason.
Yeah.
They support what it is that you're trying to do. And boy, you know, an alcoholic or drug addict getting off of addiction, I mean, is that not the king of habits, I guess?
Yeah.
You know, there's biological factors that operate, that lock you into the addiction. But, you know, so it's more than just a habit. I want to make that clear. Addiction is not just a habit. Can I make that
Right.
statement?
Yeah, no, an addiction is an addiction.
It's a lot more. So is OCD stuff. You know, I mean, you have habits with OCD, but you have OCD.
Right.
That's a biological anxiety
Yeah.
thing.
One of my
But you do the same stuff
Yeah.
to manage it.
One of my favorite things that I like to tell people is when it comes to finding things like a mantra or whatever is expo markers work on mirrors. And so I usually encourage people. I've even given out some of my own expo markers to clients so that they can go home and write encouraging things or reminders on their mirrors. Like right now, my husband wrote some on our bathroom mirror. I think it's be a nice person, have a good day, and don't be a B word. I won't say it so we don't have to make this explicit, but yeah. And it's like written at the top of our mirror. And even though
your own mirror?
in my own mirror at our house.
Okay.
Yeah.
Love that.
And I was like, you know what? Like he did it for him, but I kind
It's
of
a good way to frame the day.
Yeah, I kind of been like looking at them, you know, each morning when I get up and like, you know,
I'm learning. That sounds like
ready.
Josh a little bit.
Yeah.
That's cool. I can
And
see
like,
that.
but I tell people all the time, like, you can do things like that. Like, get an expo marker and if on your full length
Absolutely.
mirror, write things that you like about yourself. Write your daily reminders of things that you live for, the things that you know want to do better for. Like, it's totally doable. And it, like, I do get it probably doesn't work for everybody, but at least try it. And it's
Just
easy to
realizing
clean.
I have like half a mirror that's not used. I may use that space, Victoria.
Yeah, expo markers.
Expo marker.
And all you
it-
just
it
need is
works,
like a Kleenex or something to wipe it off, and it's
Sweet.
just like or glass cleaner, and it comes right off.
I'm so gonna do that.
Yeah, I don't know how I learned that. I don't know if someone told me
it's a
that,
thing.
or I've just like did it
You know
on
what?
my own. But
I think the thing is there's lots of strategies out there, and you got to find your pace, find your
Yeah.
style, and any of these things can work for you. But above all else, you've got to be positive. I mean, with yourself, there's not a lot of hope and trust in yourself. Then you're really going to stumble very easily.
For sure.
But when you build yourself up, have this level of confidence and understand that it's possible. So let's talk about that it's possible.
right,
I think that is
yeah.
a huge, huge component as well. Look, I wrote down in my thing thinking about AA. I'm not trying to slam anybody, but if an alcoholic can get sober from addiction, that's a big deal.
right, yeah, for
It's a big
sure.
deal. If an alcoholic can get sober from addiction, then we can certainly frame a response to unwanted simple behaviors, I'm thinking. Now, that is a phrase that came to mind. I didn't think about it talking about, is this a doable thing or not? But
Right.
it occurs to me in our conversation. If you don't think stopping smoking is possible for you,
Then you're not
It ain't
gonna
gonna happen.
Yeah,
it ain't gonna happen. I love the fact, and I always use the idea. I get the numbers wrong. Neil, you can correct me. What is it? A 2-minute mile? Like we could never run a 4-minute
4.
mile. We can never run a 4-minute mile under 4 minutes. In the Olympics for centuries upon centuries.
Oh yeah, we talked about this.
Yeah.
A while ago on the
Finally,
podcast,
somebody
yeah.
ran a 4-minute mile, and it was like, oh my God, the human race. Like we literally had debate, like our leg structure, the muscle tone.
Right. Is it
Science
actual
tells us
yeah.
we cannot do what cheetahs do, or something like that, right?
Right. Yeah.
Well, when we realized we can, Now you suck if you don't run a 4-minute mile. What's the world record? Like,
Heck
you
if I know.
we can.
It's probably
we
4
can
something.
Google that. Hey Siri, what is the world record for running a mile? She tells me 3:43:12. Is that the woman's record is 4:07?
Okay. That's insane.
It's strong.
That is insane to me.
It's a lot. But now we know it's possible,
Right. And that's the whole point.
and we are way more likely to do it.
Right.
So is it possible to stop pulling your hair?
Yes.
Is it possible to stop counting to 10?
Yes.
Is it possible to stop washing your hands or pulling, eyebrows or eating, overeating? I mean, we
Yeah.
struggle with these things.
Yeah.
And it feels impossible. And you've got to understand, with mindfulness, with mottos, with reminders, hey, here's an idea, with role models. We didn't mention role models yet today,
No.
right? These are all things that are reinforcing what is truly possible for you. And let the doubts die.
Yep.
Let the fear die.
Right.
Let the terrible judgments that you give to yourself die. Grieve, let go, and move forward. I mean, I don't know. It's exciting to think about what's possible, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's never ending. I mean, you can continue to improve upon yourself.
Yeah.
Ma'am, you're 67 years old. Great. What behavior would you like to work on? Young man, you're 13 years old. Cool. What are you trying to build for yourself?
Yeah, it's always interesting. It makes me think of when we get people who come in and they like complain or talk about like their parents or whatever, and they're like, I'm just gonna deal with it. They're already in their 70s. There's no point. And I'm
Old
like,
dog
well,
can't learn new tricks.
I'm
I
like,
hate that.
if you're good with living like that, by all means. But there is a possibility, like they can change.
On my 71st year, I want to be able to be much more nutritiously sound.
Right.
I'm 70 years old, but for 71, I would really like to, deal with my A1C. Okay, whatever.
I mean, and I tell people, like, I literally just used this example today. Even LeBron James misses a shot every once in a while. Even he has to show up to practice every day. Even he has to still work on his form. Like, and he's LeBron James,
Absolutely.
Like Simone Biles still has to get out there on the mat and practice her flips and twists.
She's amazing.
And all the other incredible things that she can do with her body.
Amazing.
Like, and she's Simone Biles. Like, she just can't show up to a gymnastic meet or whatever they're called and be at her 100% game, right? Mm-hmm. So no, we're not expecting us average people to like be able to just do things. I mean, I tell people all the time, therapy is a trial and error. We talk about things in therapy. You go home, you try it. If it works, great. We keep going. If it doesn't, we come back to therapy and we go back to the drawing board and we try to find something. We examine it. Why didn't it work? Blah, blah, blah. And we try to find something else.
So we need to taxi in for a landing and get to the shrink wrap-up, which is getting harder for Neil, by the way, man. He had a bruiser of a time last week.
Oh, picking?
Oh, man. I mean, we had like 3 banging responses.
Did you have the guest do it?
Oh,
too?
yeah. Oh, yeah. Kyle did amazing with that.
Yeah.
And it was like, I don't know what he's going to do. So we're getting better, Neil. Sorry about that. Might we say that changing bad habits is a form of self-love?
Well, yeah.
Because
you're taking care of yourself.
You're really caring for and with yourself. Like, what is that relationship with yourself? If your relationship is really rough and tumble inside, like think of borderline personality disorder. That is a rough ride inside.
Right.
And you'll have all sorts of acting out behaviors that are really feeling impossible to change. We need to get a lot more stability internally, which is what mindfulness you're talking about earlier does, because that enables, as you were talking about so wonderfully there.
Yeah.
But I think it is. I think it's a form of self-love. Right?
I would agree.
Okay, so these are many strategies. I think we did a really good job.
He has his own mic.
Huh? Oh, he does have his own mic. I don't have to worry about it. Thank you. Let's go. Who goes first
I'll
for
go
the
first.
shrink wrap up?
I'll go first.
Oh, okay. I was all prepared. Go ahead.
Okay. remember that habits, bad habits specifically, can be changed, but it's also okay for it to be a trial and error. You don't have to get it right on the first time. You can keep going.
I like that. Raising the perfectionism.
Yeah.
Lose the perfectionism.
Yeah.
Look, I have a lot of hope about this. I really feel like I'm hoping you've listened to our discussion and have specific thoughts about your life and your specific behavior patterns that you now have a new sense of hope about, because of all things, be kind to yourself. This is possible, and this is possible specifically and especially for you today. So the challenge is, the goal is, what do you want to apply that to? Because you can do this. It's an I can attitude.
For sure.
What do you say, Neil?
I'm going to give that one to...
I can have two in a row.
I feel guilty, like, why they're watching is like, who's our pick?
We're all eyes on
Yeah,
him,
we're
man.
both like staring Neil down.
I have to go with Chris's on this
Yeah,
one. So
I would agree.
You stumbled a little bit slow at the end there,
Yeah,
Victoria.
whatever.
You were like, it's really good, and then also at the end, I was like, I'm tired.
And I like the
First
shrink
way.
wrap up because honestly, it gives us all a chance to kind of tune in. It's a fun competition, but it's tuning into what the message is today. So we're going to leave you
Right.
today with the hope that you have the strategies that you've heard and the ability to absolutely have agency over your life with these habits.
Yeah.